All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for one last time to talk about the Prince of Nothing trilogy. Um, this will be full spoilers for the entire trilogy, obviously. I expect this to be a longer episode. We're actually going to have to record this episode in two sessions. So hopefully there's no jarring cut in the middle. But um, yeah, I know, Jinx, we've gotten your thoughts on like your preferences of the different books between the trilogy.
hmm
Like this is you've mentioned it's your least favorite overall.
I would actually have to change that. After well, it's to preface you guys that I haven't finished the last two chapters on the reread, so I will be finishing that probably tonight, or if not tomorrow. It's just my chunk chapter that I'm reviewing is like super long, and I was just like, oh, I forgot how long this chapter was, so I'm gonna go back to it later. But I actually might revise my list. I might put the first book last and put So Warrior Prophet's still my favorite, but I might put this one at number two.
Yeah, this climax was just so good, man. I mean, I personally was really pleased with this Kellis Moingus meetup that obviously we'll be talking about. But like my mind was blown by a couple of the reveals, one of which Jinx claims that I predicted back in like episode three, but I
We did.
definitely was not feeling that way going in. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to jump back to that and check that out. Um, but man, that stuff was really cool. But on top of that, like, listen, you hear about how dark this series is. I kind of had like my predictions for how some characters' arcs were going to end up. And like, I'm just really impressed with like it's refreshing and it feels good to be caught off guard with like characters being brave. But then at the same time, I think everyone's biggest flaw is still definitely shown out with how they ended up. I mean, Akka instantly comes to mind as like I just thought his ending sequence was really powerful, but also still kind of showing the worst of him in some ways. Nayor's ending was pretty great. We'll get into all of it today. A lot to dissect because we have five chapters. The first of which we'll be starting off with is chapter 13. All Shima, I believe. They're all titled Shima because we have made it here. Well, actually, the first scene of the chapter was not in Shima, and that
Yeah.
would be. Um, Mathanet showing up at the Thousand Temples. And I think it's Natsura's POV that we start off in. They're trying to, figure out how they're moving here. And they freak out because is it the Imperial Sake that he's with? Like I do recall Mathanet shows up like with some they appear first to be um like antagonists, right?
It,
So alarm bells are going off, and then it seems really bad when they go after Simas, and that's a name, as far as I can remember,
Simus.
like Simus. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was
Thank you, thank you.
Adiursis, not the Temples.
Yeah, gotcha. But yeah, regardless, like he's exposed as a skin spy, and um, I want to go back to Darkness That Comes Before for like
There
just
was
off
a
the bat.
sign.
Yeah, well, I mean, is this why? I'm trying to like I don't recall who was the bigger player in Akka going to Sumna and like being put up to the Inro stuff.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking maybe this was a variable to like get him over in like Sarcella's territory. I don't know. But um yeah, I obviously did not clock that the first time around. But there was a sign you're saying?
Yeah, so Simus was Akka's mentor that he really connected with, if you remember correctly, if you
Hmm.
remember. And Notsera was the guy that he always butted heads with. And it
Yes.
kind of seemed like Notsera was the one that's leading the charge, and Simus was the one to um, kind of ease the friction between the two and try to convince them calmly. And eventually, he kind of gave in eventually, but Simmons was a big part in on helping it. I want to have him helping him reconcile it, but convincing Akka to go meet with Enrao and try to get him to spy.
Right.
So, but yeah, there was um, if I remember correctly, I wrote it down in somewhere on my books. I was using the physical copy at the time about like there was like an odd sign with Simus, and I was like, that he might have already been a skin spy since the beginning, since we first saw him. So, or maybe you might change. I can't quite remember, but there was something I think in the first book to kind of give you like a little hint.
Yeah, I don't know. Just pathetic work by the mandate here, clearly. So, yeah, I'll take your word for it. I'll have to go back. But we do move back to Shima, which is the meat. So it is confirmed Zen is dead. Proyas is all sad about it. Um, and kind of thinking about Shima here. Um, is realizing, the city itself isn't really what's sacred. It's the sacrifices we made along the way to get here. It's what it represents. Which is, I think there's some quite funny callbacks to it because we do get a decent amount of interspersed Proyas throughout the next few sequences. Um, one of which I really want to talk about, I think, is in your later chapters. So I guess in chapter 16. Um, but yeah, so we're here, we're ready to attack soon. And there's something else we get here. I guess I'll stay in this setting and then jump back. Um, we see a lot of the Holy War people just sort of prepping for the attack. There's the river Jeshimal, pronounce it something like that, that
Something
they
like that.
cleanse it. Yeah, but I can't think of the like biblical allegory for that. But presumably they're kind of baptizing them themselves, cleansing their sins, of which there are many, and of which there will be many in these next few chapters. So yeah, Kellis getting everyone ready to fight. Um, and yeah, I thought actually what was interesting about this particular speech, and I think many of his have kind of done this, where like he's calling everyone out for their sins and like their motivations being prideful. Like, do you do anything like without like sort of self motivation, like whether that be pride or like things like that. Um, it's like you shouldn't like consider yourself a sinner for this. Like this is what makes you a human being, that you're like driven by all these things. Pretty consistent with his actual beliefs, which is interesting. And that's like just in terms of the fact that, especially as we will get into when he's chatting with Moengus later, um, you know, everyone is driven by their beliefs and passions, which Kellis most certainly knows and has used to his advantage many a time. Um, but yeah, they're ready to go. Kellis, though, will not be participating. Kellis has to go on a little side quest. He has to visit his father's house. So yeah, and Akka, of course, seeing all this, like, um, he is obviously not not down. We most certainly will see the ramifications of Akka just observing everyone being ensnared by Kellis, and that'll hit a breaking point certainly coming up. Um, but yeah, I think maybe it was from Kellis's POV where he observes, like he has learned war, and it's where people's true selves are revealed. I will call back to something else as well, so that's kind of where we end up. But relating to Confis's crew, because that certainly becomes a relevant element later
Mhm.
on. We've got Sompus, and obviously that mission was a failure, and of course, Confis is going to now destroy his house, and he is worried about the ramifications. Pretty much realizes the only way he can get away with this is by abandoning ship and joining up with Kellis. Well, it is not his lucky day because
Uh,
yeah. Well, also, yeah, he murders his Imperial Sake member just so this doesn't get back to Confis. But Nayor's camp shows up, and Sompus is, I guess, essentially skin spied, tortured to death, while everyone else just dies. Like he gets a worse fate. So, general setup chapter, I would say, just setting up for the good stuff. But if there's anything you would like to add, we can simmer in it a bit more before we start knocking down big dominoes.
no, not really. I mean, like I said about the Nocera and Simus thing was that was alluded to in the first part, but the little speech that Akka does during, oh not Akka, Callus does during like like in front of Shima was very interesting to see like how, and we'll see it later, how that reflects on you can see it through Kellis's POV at certain points where he's just like telling truths about people, um just so, and that kind of ensnares people because and it really shows how he's able to control people, and it reflects to like later in, I think, was it my chapter? No, it was your
No,
second
no, I think it
chapter.
was mine. I know what you're
Yeah,
gonna say, right?
yeah.
Well, because before we get into the weeds about what Moengus has been up to, jumping ahead here.
Mm,
When he first meets up with Moengus, I'll get it more into detail with this, but there's a big talk about how like Kellis gave these people like something to believe in,
mm.
right? And um, like he lit their way, and etc. I mean, we've seen Kellis work this magic before, but yeah, I guess the juxtaposition with when we sort of get a framed out view of it in the Dunyan analysis is it's pretty apt to get something as resounding as this right here.
Yeah, I think magic is pretty apt word because I was just thinking of uh what they say is like the one of the greatest things tools for a magician is misdirection. So being able to change uh change perspectives, like, okay, I don't want to say this, actually I'll say this for later about the misdirection. It's for your chapter, so I think we're good for this chapter. I think I can move on to my next chapter. I didn't want to go too much into that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I mean, yeah, we're even if this is like we're recording this in two parts,
Mm,
we gotta be wary of how long this episode could run. So,
mm,
uh, yeah, we can move on, but we'll get back to all that.
yeah. So, chapter 14. So we got start with following Esme. She was walking from, waking from a dream about her all ring encounter, and basically, how she was being. It's like she's battling her mental, um, what's the word? Mental, insecurities about her relationship with Kellis, and that was a reoccurring theme, I guess you could say theme, throughout these 5 chapters, especially with her when she's talking with Akka later on. It's just like does he really love you in a sense? And it's just, and she's kind of going through that whole um internal battle, and it's whether she's
And
worthy for him and whether it's he actually loves her or just using her.
can I
um
just add something quick about that?
yeah.
And well, that is something I am really, really interested to see uh, in the next series where
Yep.
she's at with all that
Uh-huh.
and how that evolves.
Yeah.
Um,
I know what
so
you mean.
and this is man, I we're gonna have to we're gonna have to get into the weeds once we like get to the end here and start talking about what's to come. But anyway, keep going. I'm sorry, I'm just giddy
No,
over here.
no,
I
it's
am
good.
so excited for these next books now. All right, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, that's what's so good. Oh, I'm not judging that. Anyways, um, yeah. So she's going through that, and she's making her tracking through the Holy War as they prepare to do their siege on Shimeh. She was going to look. She's going to trying to find Kellis. And as she's walking through the camp, she recognizes a her one of her former patrons that might have taken her a few times, was a customer for her back when she was a lady of the night. And uh, he tried to force him on her because he was like, he recognized her, but then obviously he was drunk and he just was aroused from the potential of battle that's going to be coming on. And she slapped him and said, "Do you know who I am? Like, I could have you flayed." And he kind of woken out of that drunken stupor, and he was terrified of what he did because he realized, oh yeah, that's the warrior prophet's consort. And yeah, that could be devastating if he found out. So she asked him where Kellis was, and he gave her directions, and she made her way through um, the camp. She is obviously reflecting on the whole situation about how far she's come. Again, she does that a lot, and I mean, you can't blame her. She's still kind of in, I don't want to say in shock, but like sometimes she has to take herself out of the situation and realize, okay, yeah, I actually am a person of note and worth now, not just the whore from Suna. Um, so yeah, she ends up making up to Kellis, and he tells her that he's going to Kadia, um, which Kadia is the sister city of Shimeh, which was destroyed by a former aspect emperor long ago. Obviously, we know that's where Moangus is, and um, yeah, she's like worried about the situation because she sees parallels with Aka's situation. Yes, when it comes to Kellis, she was saying that she was having like kind of, I guess you could say, recalling the times that she was when Akka left for Iothea to go study in the library, and how she tried to convince him to either take her with her or not to go. They don't want to be separate. And literally she asked him this time. She asked Kellis this time. He's like, "Take me with you," and he's like, no." And then she said, "Well, take Akka. And he's your protector." He's like, I've outgrown Akka, one and two. This is a path I can only walk alone. So I see some parallels between him and so she's just worried about something similar happening, and he points that out to her and basically reassures her about that situation. Um, and yeah, what you got to say?
Reassures. Hey, listen, as like in fairness, usually I'd want to slap Kellis for something like this, but I've been waiting 3 books for this. Anyone would be a buzzkill. Don't take it personally.
Yeah, yeah, more than that. So he um basically he says like, well, what about the holy word that your people need you? And he's like, well, Proteus got this, right? He knows what to do. And she's like, okay. And yeah, we moved to and we moved to Kellis's POV, and as he is running up and making his way to Kaidia, um, I think it's Kaidia. Yeah. Anyways, when he's going up to trying to make his way to the Kaidia, he's like thinking about his circumstance, huh? Circumstance, and like, oh, what he had to do to get here. And this is where I'm like kind of thinking about, like, does he feel some type of remorse and regret for basically controlling everyone like a puppet master? It kind of read like that, but it's sometimes, since I'm immersion reading, I'm like, it could have been the reader that's kind of the uh audiobook
Like the
narrator.
narrator,
Could,
like
yeah,
the
could have been
voice,
like,
timbre of his voice.
yeah, could be using a voice, that a tone that could make you think maybe a little bit more regretting his decision, or may have some hesitation why he did that. Feels kind of bad about his
Yeah, I don't know if
decisions.
I clocked this particular instance, but like this doesn't stand out as like I kind of like I wasn't set back the same way. But maybe if I inspect the passage a little more, I could agree with you. And we certainly not only, of course, have seen potential elements of some humanization with him, but I mean that's one factor in sort of the deviation between him and the expected Dunyan way of thought. We will get into another one, definitely.
Let me see if
But
I can find that real quick though. This is chapter 14. I'm grabbing my physical book. Okay, he says, let's see. Against the consultations, dead branches clacked and creaked without rhythm. What do I do? He replied. They attend only to what lies before their eyes. They listen to only what pleases their ears, things unseen, things unheard. They trust to you. The wind subsided, leaving an unearthly silence in its wake. He heard his pacey hiss of maggots squirming through the guts of the dead crow some 5 paces on his right. He heard the chattered termites seething beneath the bark of the surrounding oaks. He tasted the sea in the air. What was I to do? Tell them the truth? He stooped, pulled a twig from the straps of his right sandal. He studied it by moonlight, followed by thin muscular branches that sized so much emptiness from the sky, tusks sprouting from tusk. The trees about him had died seasons previously. The twig possessed 2 leaves, one waxy green and the other brown. No, he said, I cannot. The
Well, I mean,
Duni
there's
has sent
definitely
him.
uncertainty there, which I think there's kind of. Or sorry,
Yeah, sorry, that
did
was
you
I was going
continue?
to finish this last thing. The Duni
Yeah,
has
yeah,
sent
go for
him
it.
into the world as assassin. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Um, I mean, definitely uncertainty. But like that has like I feel like we've been like seeing some things of that nature. But I totally would put that in the category as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I don't know.
um,
I didn't know how to really interpret that. I was like, okay, maybe, uh, maybe he's a little regretful, but I don't know. I was like,
nah,
there's
good call
crack in
out, good
armor.
call out.
But sometimes I don't know. Anyways, we move on. So we move on to like a little short, like a not even a full page of Iakis talking to one of the Kifrang, Zayas, and they are plotting something, which we later see what they were doing. Again, you already know what I think what Kifrangs look like, but I just can't get the image out of my head. Um, and then we go back to Akka and his dream sequence with Night Cayutis and just the whole description of Golgotha and this the dead basic dead ship in the halls and all the dead bodies and the people being tortured, the endless shrank, and it's just like it's very visceral, I guess is the word to describe it. Um and very uh disturbing, I guess.
Yeah, I would describe it that way too.
um I mean, I mean, to most people, it'd be kind of disturbing. I guess disturbing is the right word. Um, and I mean, I can see it in my head how I see it. Um, and yeah, so they, so like these dream sequences with my Coyotes, I mean, it's kind of weird because it's like you don't know though. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but like I still don't remember if we know the reason why now Coyotes and Saswatha went up there, went to I know they're looking for something or someone, but I don't remember if they said who they're looking for. Um Maybe it was in in my chapter or your last chapter, but yeah, it seems like I'm still missing something, and obviously I don't remember from when I first read it or listened to it. Um, and as they're just going through, as he's going through the dream sequence, he starts like there's a moment where now Cayuse was interrogating Seswath, not like literal interrogation, but it's like, well, like where is she? And it's like, and then he just hears Nayor's voice say like, wake up," and Akka wakes up with a Kore, and they are holding a Kore right above his chest. And we cut from there to Eliazarus, and he's criticizing Iakis for summoning Zayas and the other two, Kifrang, saying about like, well, there's not nearly as many Kisharm as we anticipated. It seems like we overdoing it. It's like taking a flame, in my equivalent, in my opinion, it's like to light a cigarette, you're using a flamethrower instead of using a regular lighter. I mean, it can get the job done, but it's just overkill. And it's way deadlier. And if I remember, Kifrangs are just like that one. Well, I'm not sure Kifrang is a demon. I guess it is a demon, but it's the same. It might be like the same type of creature that when Akka fought fought one of those creatures when he was in Iothea with
The
the
Balrog.
yeah the equivalent of the Balrog. Um, um, and yeah, I think those were Kifrangs. That was a Kifrang as well. So it technically is like a demon that possesses your soul once you upon death or something like that. So you're damned after you die. And it will, yeah, um, get more into that, I guess, in the series. Um, so we go back to, so that was like they kind of just like were having a little tidbit on that, and it was very very brief. Again, that was like a less than like a full page again. Um, so then we move back to Nayar interrogating Akko about Kellis and Kellis' whereabouts. Akko tries to hold fast in his um I guess I don't want to say defense is the right word, but like his reluctance to give Kellis up because of like what his importance to the whole the second apocalypse, not because of his love for him, more for like he's our only hope in a way. So but eventually Nayar is like, okay, if you're not gonna go through it for torture, then um how about I trade you a truth? And we see they kind of cut through it, but they do like a jump cut to the end of the story where um uh, uh or Nayar was talking about his like relationship with Moangus and how he's being manipulated and kind of opening his eyes and being able to think further than his brethren, and which makes him, which without that ignorance kind of separates him from the people of the steppe, which is like that's why I was like when I think in a few chapters ago, or maybe even the last book, with that he said you can't never gain that ignorance back, and because the people of the steppers have that ignorance, he can never be totally among the people. Um, so kind of knowing is opening his eyes to just the greater world, not only the greater world, but like how flawed their culture can be, and just human nature in general, um, and how uh, that also leads down to what callous is and how they're able to control your emotions just to get what they want. Uh, like I said, he Moangus used Naor to open his eyes just to get him to have a situation where him and his father could go to battle and or battle to duel, and the Moangus they eventually kill him, and then Moangus just ends up leaving. So it's just like that end up having him spiral down into regret and I guess we say loneliness and other different types of negative emotions, and having him separated from people not only in culture and custom, but also because of his sexual identity and stuff like that. So that interrogate or after that telling that story, um, he Aka eventually tells him, but I think we hear about it the next chapter that he tells him, and Moange starts his way through, um, starts leaving to leave the camp and heading over to Kaidia. As we
Or
also
Naor,
know,
you mean?
yeah, Nayar, sorry, I said Kel,
Yeah.
or yeah.
Hold on, wait. One thing before we jump from this scene, there was something I wanted to call out. Just as Nayor kind of begins the reveal,
Mm-hmm,
I believe he like starts it off by saying to Akka, like, tell us his Dunyain.
mm-hmm. That's his
And
truth in old language, yeah, dead language.
exactly, truth in old language, but that language is not dead, and Dunyain no longer means truth, which to me was a callback to something like in like one of the first chapters. I can't remember if it was the prologue or chapter one of Darkness That Comes Before, where they were talking about kind of the evolution of language and like meaning and things like that. So I to me it just resonated a lot harder because like that was something sort of referenced at a high level like early on. It felt like a little seed burgeoning to me. So I thought that was really powerful.
Hmm.
But
There you go.
yeah, so
And
go on, go on.
see, that's why you're here. I wouldn't have remembered that.
Well,
Um,
hey, I didn't articulate it very well, but yeah,
it's okay.
regardless.
But yeah, also Akko is like you see like Akko start doing his memory map again and going scribbling names and connecting the lines, throw up the graphic, and yeah, he has everyone's names from Kellis to Moangus to the Console, the Holy War, even Esme on there, and connection all down to Shima, and it's he's just kind of panicking because he's like, man, what did he just do? He just gave up the warrior prophet. Well, not if whether he believes it or not, he gave up the location of Kellis. Maybe the only person that can stop the second apocalypse or finish it from when it does start, the defense for when it does start. Um, to not only to Naor, who probably is going to go and kill him, but to the enemy, the consul, because he sees the two skin spies there with them, and he's like, goes against entirely what the mandate is for, all because of some personal revenge and vendetta against Kellis. Uh, yeah, so he's very conflicted, and that's pretty much what the chapter ended off on. So
I just very quickly just want to, as you were finishing off there, I actually grabbed my book and pulled up the map. And I just, there's something like Aka's map. There was a node on that map that I just want to come back to when we're chatting later on. So I'm just going to make a note here right now to do that. But that's in chapter 16. So for now, we are in chapter 15. And this is where we hit the gas. So, let's see. Um, so the blind man um, reveals to Callus, yeah, or it's revealed that the blind man said to Callus that there was but one tree. So that's where he's going. He is stepping down into and this had the gravitas of kind of, I feel like, a lot of sort of fantasy scenes of like the quest culminating in some like dark, mysterious area, just like stepping down like below the tree. He descends into this ancient non-man city, and I think it's definitely worth kind of coming back to that once, maybe hopefully in the next series, a little more familiar with the non-man culture. Um, I think there are probably some observations to be made about the layout and things like that, as Callus himself is, taking some notes. But I think the most interesting thing that we find here is Anasarimbor Moengus, whose eyes are carved out of his head. And Another thing about this chapter that I'm going to make a note of now. Um, it began, and like this is a good writing tactic by Baker, but like I'm not criticizing it, but it was so frustrating that like I'm just on the edge of my seat trying to read this exchange, and we just keep jumping around and jumping around. So for the sake of me not frustrating the audience like that, I'm blocking this out into three chunks of things I'm going to go
yeah,
over.
that's fair. They
Callus.
did jump like 3 or 4 times.
Oh, it was even worse in your chapter. Oh, dude, the worst. But anyway, so they do at least just dive right into the meat. Moangus basically kind of like he could have given a better version of this read along podcast than we did without even having to read the books. Basically, just kind of sums up like um, he instantly pieces together how Callus has ended up there, why he needed to do so, etc. And he goes on this great rundown about how people are kind of shaped by belief, um, like some of which are just imprinted on them like irreversibly early. He has this great line. One of the lines from the exchange would be like, "Why are there no phantom children born to Enrithi parents, and vice versa?" Um, so, um, yeah, I like just sort of talking about belief from like a high level Dunyan perspective of like the sort of the type where, like, I mean, the way Callus investigates people, where um, while the Dunyan have supposedly mastered their passions and beliefs and external forces that drive them, um, other people are not like that. And as such, Callus has throughout the trilogy observed, how to make them tick or what makes them tick, how to use that to advantage, how to make them believe. He gave them purpose. Um, and, overall, it seems like Kellis ended up there. He wasn't, it's what he expected. He knew he would make it. And um, yeah, overall, it worked out according to his plans, except for one little bit.
Hmm.
Kellis is thinking to himself, he knows I am mad. And uh, yeah, this is part of what's kind of tough about describing this chapter is um, I might sort of call out things here that like happened as part of the second half of this conversation, which was in the subsequent chapter. So we might come back to this, but
Actually, that's
uh,
where, sorry to cut you off, that's where it ends on this chapter, if I remember correctly. It's, he asked him about, because in that chapter, he asked, okay, he was given the whole rundown spiel of how he got here, but then he's like, I didn't, where he lost the probability trance was when uh how Kells got out of being put on the crucifix, or how he's going to be charged by the cast nobles and stuff, the great names. And he said, that's, see, you somehow succeeded at past where I didn't.
and
um
that is because he grasped the thousandfold thought, which is where we
Now,
end up
yeah,
here.
basically that. And he asked him, so what about the voices, did you see that? And he's like, what voices?
Right. Okay. Yes, exactly. And then, so, well, that's sort of the big thing. That's what I wasn't sure if I was, going to mention here, because they sort of have a discussion about how like Kellis has been hearing, voices from like, you know, the no god or whatnot.
Mm,
But um, I wasn't sure how, like, if Moengus's suspicions could be attributed strictly to that, or like maybe it was just like observing kind of his tendencies that might be indicative of other things. But yeah, so we'll get into all that. But yeah, I guess I'll also just shout out here like sort of what my interpretation of the thousandfold thought is at this point.
mm,
Like it basically just seems to kind of be like this like massive set of variables that like they understand that they need to get a grasp on and manipulate for sort of a central set of results. And I guess I'll hold there because next chapter is where we sort of get into Moengus's motivations and stuff like that. So uh, yeah. And then the neuropuncture stuff that doesn't come up till your chapter either, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Sounds good. Okay. So in that case, back to Akka, who is just kind of wallowing in how Kellis did him and everyone else dirty. And yeah, he asks Esme to walk with him. Got a little alone time that they're going to seize. And basically just says to her, Kellis doesn't see people, he watches. He has been using me, he's been using you, he can't possibly truly love you. And yeah, it's either here or also again, it might be the next chapter. Well, actually, definitely in the next chapter, but I think there's sort of some allusion to it here, where Esme realizes that like Akka is the only one who truly loves her, right? Which I mean, frankly, is accurate. He has and will continue to through till the very end of this book, fail to do her right by that love. But
Yep,
yeah,
every time. He had the
I
chance. He always has chances, and then he fumbles at the line.
Well, I mean, I guess we could have some back and forth as to whether he actually had. This seemed like he basically did everything he could here at the buzzer, but and it's still, but in terms of like being able to polish things off with Esme,
Mm,
oh well, I mean, and then once he realizes he has still failed, and he does something that I'm going to yell at him about later.
yeah.
But yeah, regardless, I think um, I think the assessment that he is the only one to truly love her is fairly accurate. And yeah, as we know from the last chapter, is just overwhelmed. This doesn't help. Akka is just feeling desperate and thieved by Kellis. Perfect Storm, they um, reunite by means of the flesh. So that is that. And then simultaneously, we have the onset of the attack on Shima. So, um, yeah, the Scarlet Spires are first up. And Eliazarus, among the rest of them, is just going berserk. And it is, I think it's actually really cool. Kind of this is where the back and forth, I think, really plays to the advantage of the chapter because
Mm,
um, you have Moengus just basically discussing how, like, these are chill, that, like, they're uh, essentially like children among men, the common people with respect to the Dunyain, and like uh, just a discussion of how they've basically been manipulated into this war
exactly.
from every perspective, and how they're animalistic and all that. And then meanwhile, you just see them absolutely going to town, and like like even Eliazarus is like just like literally just getting drunk on this,
Caught
ironically.
up in the fervor.
Uh, yeah, caught up in the fervor. We've been seeing him getting drunk on alcohol. Right now, he is getting drunk on violent sorcery. They are sparing no Kisharum. Um, like obviously, well, I mean, of
Mhm.
course, but they're sparing no aspect of the city. With their relentless goal here is to just get rid of the Kisharim, and then we also see Proyas leading an assault on the walls. Um, he's got a homie that dies, whose name I can't recall right now, but he's dead. So,
Oh, you
um,
talking about the other big name?
yeah.
Something with a G. I can't remember the name either.
Well, regardless, he's dead. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Proyas. I mean, he's doing what he's got to do, but he's kind of like, bruh. Like just we. I feel like Proyas has generally kind of been the eyes of um someone who like is quite pious himself and like at least is just still probably the most deluded that this war is for holy causes. Obviously, we had
Yeah.
the sort of back and forth in his head earlier about like all this horror, like at least it's in service of um all this. But yeah, I mean, for us, honestly, you best have concluded that the city itself isn't truly holy. Otherwise, this wouldn't be working out all too well for you, would it? Not to say it's working out well in reality, but yeah, and particularly not when, they're kind of like where the Phantom at. And yeah, instead of defending the walls, they were tunneling through them. And Fenayal busts through. Here comes the cavalry charge. And yep, the Battle of Shima has begun in earnest. Um, okay, the call back here. I'm just now looking through other quotes I wrote down. Got a couple good ones. I think this one is from Moengus, where he says they encircle themselves with the Yaysayers. Um, they look to the horizon for confirmation for some higher sign that they are as central to the world as they are to themselves. Just tearing humanity to shreds here.
I know. I was
Wonder
like,
how much of
dang.
this is Baker and how much is Moengus. Yeah, and great call out here from Moengus as well, where he says, "You showed them who they were, even as you exploited those weaknesses to your advantage." Which again, like we were saying this earlier, Kellis, a lot of his speeches, and I guess where he's made sort of his, uh, the way he's made deductions from some of the truths of, or truths, I say in air quotes, of the scriptures and all that is um, he is enlightened by his worldview, and um, like he'll what he is telling the people, is designed to lead them to certain frames of thought, um, but at the same time, it is like he essentially what he's saying is he puts his cards on the table. He like if one was a close observer, they might pick up on the fact that um, Kellis is showing them what he's doing if you connect a couple dots,
Yeah,
as
I
of
like
course Akka has.
the same one where the quote also with him saying, "Oh, I'm like a child. He just gives kids the tools, and they'll eventually figure out how to put it together for you."
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, "Damn."
Yeah, yeah, it was a great kind of disjunct monologue. At least not one I would say I wholeheartedly endorse, but it's certainly a framework of a worldview being presented here, and I was down for it.
Yeah,
So
I would say if he
um,
endorsed that, I'd be a little bit concerned.
no, 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 no. I am no an Esserenborn myself, but or should I say I am no Dunyain myself because
That's what a Dunian would say.
right. Yeah, there's something I want to call it because I did reread. The only thing I reread after this was the prologue. So there's another thing like later on I wanted to mention that I caught there that I wanted to discuss. But anyway, one other line I had written down for this chapter was from Esme, and it was, "Why couldn't she just hate him, this drab and broken sorcerer? It would all
Mm,
be so much easier
easier.
then." Which is ironic because why couldn't she just hate Kellis? That would actually make things a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, um, Not to say that she, well, I mean, the thing is, truly, like I was when she and Aka started hooking up again,
Mm,
um, like if the alternatives, like if you're only giving me two options and it's she's with Aka and she's with Kellis, I mean, I'm choosing I'm choosing Aka, man. I think you have to.
unfortunately, unfortunately, you have to because you never know what Kellis has in mind. I mean, he could get once he gets what he needs, he doesn't need you anymore. He'll discard you. Look at Lewis in the beginning of the book. Like he got the small amount of information, used you as bait, and got the hell up out of there.
So, alas, we will see that that is not the choice that she is going to make. Of course. But yeah, I guess because we do have to cut our recording session short, and then and jump back for chapter 16. But before me and you drop, or you and I drop, would you like to add or highlight anything else? Because I mean, there were these next two were full of the juice.
Yeah, no, not really. Other than that, the Palatine's name was Gadecki.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, you found
Eh,
it. Nice.
yeah, and also that river that you mentioned about being baptized, it's a synonym for the Jordan River.
Jordan
It's
River.
where
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. John
um
baptized Jesus.
yeah,
Right. Tracks. Okay. Yeah. I couldn't think of the analog, but I clocked it.
yeah.
Uh,
Also the thing with the Esmonette thing is interesting because it was they mentioned the what was I gonna say about the um it's like she said when she looked in Akka's eyes, she said she could see the difference,
yes.
see the love in his eyes
Yes.
compared to
Exactly.
Callus's. And I was like, yes, that is
That's the thing. Like
exactly.
I thought really she was swayed. Now I still wasn't very hopeful reading this because I thought she was gonna die or something in the next chapter.
Mm.
I thought there would be some like listen, I had a feeling at least that subplot was ending tragically. But the fact that like I really think in the end like Aka did all he possibly could have done here
Yeah, and she
until she made
just
the choice,
yeah,
and
she
then
made her choice and she has to live with that choice.
is what it is. And I mean, there would have been plenty of obstacles in terms of it because they're also is it here or in the next one where she obviously points out that Kellis is going to read them off or off their faces instantly. Like it's not
Oh,
like
it's
they
a
could
new
have just
chapter.
gotten
Yeah.
away with this. Like yeah,
Yeah.
so uh, but
But like you said, would he have cared? I don't know.
uh, I mean, evidently not. He takes Esme back, so
Yeah.
um, you know, but who knows? Who knows? Okay, well, I think we can tie up from chapter 15 here and move on to the last of the good stuff. Well, I shouldn't say that. Chapter 17 is amazing in its own way, but it's a very, this is the climax right here.
Okay, again, this is chapter 16. And I was just telling David that I split these chapter up into like three pieces. So I had it as, at least I structured my notes was Callus and Moangus. And then I had it as this the battle, meaning where the main battle was. So that included Ellie's battle with the Kisharam and the battle at the aqueduct with Fanile and company. And then we had Akka and Esme as POV. So the just like the relationship with Akka and Esme at that point, and also Akka fighting the Kifrang, spoilers, I guess. And then we had Confus's POV, which was
Hey, by the way, I
yep.
just got to throw it out. Something on my wish list was that we were in Confus's POV when he died.
Yeah.
I very much liked the way he went out. But anyway, I was getting
Yeah.
ahead of myself. Go on, go on.
Okay. So I'm gonna do a bit of Kellis. Actually, I think I'm gonna go through I don't know. Okay, I'm just gonna go through each section and I'm just gonna go straight through. And
You got it.
obviously in the chapter, it was jumping back and forth. So and it made it kind of hard to like he's going. I'm not gonna say okay. We move to this POV. I'm just gonna say here. Okay. So we open up with Kellis and Moegus, and they're Moegus takes them to the captives, which is the skin spies, and you can see that they're all strung up, open over at like a ginormous pit. Also, I forgot to mention the last part of the of this episode, but like the description of this place was very visceral, and this is a I forgot to mention this place is a non-man mansion, so it's one of
Yeah,
the
yeah, we chatted about that a bit.
did we do? I don't know. I thought I
Yeah,
mentioned that.
I
I don't
brought it up earlier. I do it, but I don't think we got into the weeds of it. But
know. Okay. No, it's
yeah,
I don't know which specific family this non-man the non-mans were that owned this area, but it was just non-man mentioned, so you can cut that out if you want. Anyways, so the captives are strung up over a pit, and Moegus Callus notices that Moegus has just like in Ishwal had was doing narrow puncture, which is like needles, like a bajillion needles on every part of the body, mostly on the brain, and just to activate certain muscles to, just to capture knowledge of like how things work, so you can anticipate the like stimulate emotion and stuff. Also, they also mentioned in passing that there were some dead bodies nearby, just like a little girl and a woman that they were using to stimulate the non men or not non men the skin spies, for violence and stuff. So it's playing around, but that was like mentioned in cursory. So now here's like kind of like the conversation between the two is kind of like I get it. So I like, and I think in the previous chapter, like Moing is was telling Kellis how he got here. Now it's like mostly Kellis telling how Moingus got here. Um, so and he was talking about like the how he when he left and killed Naor's father, he got a Swaz on, so he couldn't go to the Nansor Empire. He had to go to the Feynery because he would have been outcast and because he would have been deemed as like a I don't want to say zealot, but like a as an outsider, I guess you could say. And he would not be accepted. So he had to go to Feynery, and he eventually got captured and sold into slavery. Again, you know how Dunyan are, they're conditioned. So he basically learned the language, obviously, and convinced his master to sell him for a high price. And he was outbought by another person, or he was convinced his slave to sell him at a high price, and his new master eventually freed him for love of him, obviously. And then eventually he made his way to the Shimeh, and he found like the Kisharim, and he wanted to become part of the Kisharim. Um, he once he kind of infiltrated the Kisharim, he he obviously was trying to get more knowledge of just like all the worldly men's like tools. So in this case, the sukkah. But there was one problem that he didn't anticipate was that the sukkah base is based off of passion and was it passion? What was the other word? I can't remember the other word, but let's just say passion. And Dunyan, that's the exact antithesis of Dunyan. It's all calculated, emotionless, very sociopathic, um, calculated inference, intelligence, really.
it might have
So
been sense. I'm trying to because I was like also kind of like took note of the fact that once his eyes came out, like that seemed to have kind of given him a ceiling, right?
yeah,
And so like he's limited by that and like being passionless. It might have. I'm just trying to. Never mind. I'll shut up. But I took note of this too. And I like him blinding himself. I don't think
I'll
um
say.
it was a
Yeah,
good
so
factor.
mhm. He said, or at least I wrote it. He said, to learn the Sukkah, I wrote it down. Learn the Sukkah, he needed to be blinded, and Moses did not know it was the metaphysics of the heart, not the intellect.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then it talks about his lack of passion. which is like so he couldn't really do much. I don't know if any. Well, was able to do some, but he couldn't really do like the major stuff and get higher ups. Like I think they mentioned briefly during like the Ellie parts when he was fighting the Kisharam, like the different tiers of the Kisharam, and like different tiers have like more power than others. So it's I can't remember the tiers, but um yeah.
It's like
So
we're
he
reading lit RPG.
I know it's crazy. So but he kind of remained kind of low. In they respected him because of his piercing intelligence, but the problem is he doesn't have his eyes anymore. So he has to rely on different senses to kind of manipulate. And
Mhm.
that really limited, I don't say limited, but it definitely lowered his ability to control the narrative, to gaslight people. Um, I think it was Kellis that mentioned that. Eh, Again, I'm jumping out of order, but when he was talking about when they said he anticipated, he found this, noticed the skin spies is by sense of tonal changes, instead of how Kel sees it via the eyes. So like he had to heighten his other senses in order to kind of compensate, even though he will never be as like perceptive as his son is now because of the loss of his eye.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like I'm really just kind of putting this together now. What was the point in the neuropuncture if he couldn't observe? Whatever. I don't know. Was he
I don't
feeling him
get it
up or what?
either. I mean, I don't
Set up for Callus? Who knows?
I don't know. Maybe he can sense things in a different way. But that's a good point. Like, if he doesn't have any eyes, maybe they can see in a different way. Maybe it's like how,
Yeah.
I don't know what book I was. It's like, there's one book series that has as a guy that's like an assassin, but he blindfolds himself to be able to like see in like a different kind of realm, not like kind of realm,
Mhm.
so you can see like body outlines and stuff. So maybe something of that nature. But I don't know if he had that ability, then he wouldn't be limited in any factor. So I don't know. That's a very good point. Somebody obviously will say you guys are idiots. Baker clearly said this, that, that, and this. It's like, are you even reading? Anyways, um, uh, yeah. He mentioned Cal said like, well, because you lost your ability to see, you can't control now. You can control the people's circumstance and control the narrative, but as soon as you're out of their like realm, like away from them for a prolonged period of time, the whisper he said the whispers start to return and doubt starts to happen. So you can't quite hold people as you were if you had your eyes. So he lost a lot of his ability. Um, um, so and then Kels goes into how he discovered the skin spies. So this is where kind of like where you're asking the question about why did the Kisharam attack
Yeah, the
the Scarlet
spies. Yeah,
Spires? Yeah.
yeah.
So that's why I was like, I mean, I figured it out. I thought actually I'll get to it. But yeah, so Moengus discovered, I think a few years later after he turned on to Kisharm, that there were some skin spies because people were getting replaced and there were tonal differences. So I was like, okay, this is not sorcery because he doesn't smell like he doesn't sense the sorcery behind this. This is something else, which we now know is the techne, which is like something like kind of technology, I guess, from the Inkoroi, that utilize that. Um, and so I guess one of these skin spies triggered like killed like a lot of people inside the Kisharam, and they posed as the a Scarlet Spire, and so the Kisharam was like, all right, we can't go like that, and they ended up going attacking the Scarlet Spires for as revenge and killed Ellie's former master and the former Grand Master of the Scarlet Spires. I don't remember the dude's name. It's so long ago. Anyways, um, yeah, it was. I originally thought after the skin spice, once we kind of discovered the skin spice, David, I was going to tell you, I think it was either last episode or early this part of this episode, that it was last episode, that originally thought it was the skin spies into dressed up as a Kisharm to kill the Scarlet Spires, which is like I guess not too far from the truth, but it was just a regular Kisharm thinking that they were done wrong. So basically, the
Yeah,
Kisharm
you're
scared
not.
off. Hmm?
Yeah, you're not the only one who has convoluted consult motivations and Moingus motivations, as we'll hit on very shortly as well. So,
Yeah. So
not an unreasonable conclusion when shrouded in mystery.
yeah, but Moinga said he could have outed them, but he's like, well, then you're gonna ask like, how did I out them if I can't see? And like they would ask for his methods, and he was like, I think I'm just gonna lay low and just learn what's going on. And eventually, he does like capture one of the spies, and the skin spies that you see over the pit, maybe there could have been more, but those skin spies that are over the pit have been there for a few years now, so maybe it's the same ones that he's been torturing, but he's been getting out a lot of the overarching story that Kellis eventually kind of gathered. So that would be the what the console might be doing, what they'd be planning, um, um, their motivations, um, why yeah. So the motivation would be obviously to save their souls from damnation, and what this consoles are doing. So they're obviously triggering the war between the two to um, actually, I can't tell that part of the story yet because it wasn't mentioned. But
All right,
obviously,
all right.
so they triggered the war, and it was part of their motivation. Because they didn't specifically say why they triggered the war, but I know. Um, and so let's say so eventually when Moengus was revealed to Jacalus that the only part that he needed when he needed assistance because he was like, okay, I can't. He was in the probability trance trying to figure all the thousandfold thought to figure out, like, okay, how do I deal with this no God? And he was like, okay, I can't quite do this alone because he does not have the capacity, especially without his eyes, to handle all this by himself. So that's why he had to use whatever method he needed to, this summoning method to get to call Ishwal and get Kellis to come here. Basically, I guess they basically threatened Ishwal, or Mogus threatened Ishwal to say, send my son over to me now. Um, we have a big problem here. Um, yeah. So the one thing I also did want to mention was that I don't quite understand this, but like when he was talking about like his ability not to be able to passion, I'm guessing he said when they were talking about the water. So I'm guessing like what they were talking about is like how like the Scarlet Spires use fire. I'm guessing like the Kishar mostly use like water in their abilities for their abilities instead of fire. So that's why he said the water eludes you, and then that's why Mongoose was like, okay, I can still use some water, and like the transcribing and the, um, I forgot what it said. What did it say? Um, but yeah, he had like different methods, but it's very like low level stuff to use. Um, um, so I think um, after like that one part of that is we have Moangus did eventually mention that or Kellis asked Moangus, so you brought me, but why didn't you bring my brother? And yeah, we find out that Methanet was the brother, which again you did mention early. You guessed it, and it was in passing. But I remember you mentioning that. It's like, oh, Methanet's. I'm guessing Methanet might be Moangus's son, and
Yeah, I'll have
it
to
was
find that clip to see exactly what led me there.
yeah.
Um, but
He was like,
I there was thing like one thing I want to mention on this note
mm,
specifically. I mean, first of all, this has a ton of implications, but there was one clarification I kind of wanted from you,
mm,
which was, and maybe if this is something you can't tell me yet, then that's all right. We can give it a simple read and find out
Raffo,
if like
Raffo, yep.
yes, exactly. But in terms of the consult assassinating Inro for trying to get to the bottom of what Mathanet's up to. Um, I don't even want to remotely know like if there's some sort of Dunyan consult link that, still might be later revealed. But I guess I don't know. My interpretation of this is that the consult was just down for the Holy War and didn't want any interruptions because of, getting rid of the charm or something along those lines. Um, but I don't know. If there are any additional details that you might share here as to why you think this is the thing, or is this something that we need to just revisit later, you think?
So you're asking, let me see if I understand your question. You're asking if the console, why did the console start the Holy War, or why did he?
When Inro was investigating uh Mathanet
Mm,
in Sumna in like the very first, basically like our first episode.
mm,
And then like they I forget if they threw him off the cliff or if he
yeah, yeah,
killed
he was,
himself because
yeah.
I think they tortured him and they
Mm,
killed himself. Yeah, but it was the consult that was like, all right, quit investigating this guy, get out of here. Um yeah, I don't know. That I think that's kind of what I've been holding on to is
uh,
why
okay.
um yeah.
So yeah, eventually, my guess is the reason why, because the Moangas, or not Moangas, they didn't want Enround to trigger something that could cause the Holy War not to go through.
Yeah, okay. That's
I'm
all right.
I'm guessing that's kind of what they was. So like Enround was going to be, he's doing an active role in that situation. So maybe the console. Well, no, the console didn't know Mason that was doing Yang. Otherwise, they would have figured things out. But um, yeah. So yeah, that's what I think. I think they just didn't want him to interfere from and cause and actually maybe prevent the Holy War from actually taking place. I don't know what really power Mathanet could have to, or not Mathanet, the Inral could have had that would prevent the Holy War, but maybe it could have just been a plot device. I don't know, just to get an idea of who's Skin Spy, because that's when we saw Sarcellus was not Sarcellus. Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was
Sarcellus.
Ocellus. It
Yeah,
was
I was thinking
Ocellus.
of Scales. It
Gotcha.
was yeah, it was Sarcellus. It was the Skin Spy. So yeah, bum. So it cuts to another part, but I'm going to continue a different part, meaning a different part of a battle. But I'm going to cut to this part. So Moangus basically said that the reason why he didn't just have Mathanet do this, basically do the warrior prophet route, was because he could only see so far. So as he said, or as he mentioned, that I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in this episode, but world-born woman can't really produce like pure Dunyan. So like Dunyan, as we now know, is a a mixture of genes and like sharp wits of the cult is basically cultivation of like certain genes
Yeah,
that
nature
have
and nurture, because I
yeah
mean, Kells
nature
did have
and
to go through a lot of training.
exactly. So like you have certain level of capacity to be a true Dunyan. You have to have have to have those talent to do that. While um and that talent is genetic. Some of that talent is genetic. So since
I don't even want to know what they do to the Dunyan women. I'm guessing just turn them into like breeding machines, like and make them complacent with it. I don't know. Or Raffo, I presume. But
very
anyway,
much a Raffo.
yeah.
I remember it's clear. Anyways, so yeah, so the Mathanet is a mix. So he's part Dunyan, part Nasavimber, part whatever. I don't know his mother is. Could be. No, I don't think it was Kel's or Nayor's mother's, because Nayor's mother was pregnant with uh Moangus' son at one point, but I think that baby was killed. Anyways, but he was a mix between some woman and Moangus. He has really good capabilities, but is obviously a world-born woman, so there's a limit. Um, so I'm imagine um, Esme's kid's going to be the same way. Um, very smart, very smart, but not won't be as strong as Kellis in being able to see all the probabilities in the thousandfold thought. So um, against the depth perception might not be as good. So that's why he said I needed a true Dunyan, somebody, my true son, somebody that has both the nurture and the talent. Like well, Nathanet was trained, but he doesn't have the full genetics to and full genetics to have the talent to reach the depth that Kels can see. Um, so that's why he called him over. I was just long winded. Um,
Yeah,
so
Kellis asks if he was the shortest path, and
he said, "No, you're
Moegas
the only
says
path."
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, yeah. So, um, so then Melangus goes over the like how like kind of the circumstances like of the people. I guess I don't know. I feel like that was like earlier, about like the nobles and how they use narcotics to call the people into obedience, which is like different like city states like do that to like kind of get people make their people more pliable. And eventually they do talk about the what's that term called? Something with a P. Uh, I had it. Yeah, okay. First of all, let's. What is it called? I have it in my notes. I have like so many giants. Piece of informations, force, instructions, learns, nominations. Where did it go? Did I skip over the? Couldn't have skipped over the. You remember the term that they use to describe like enrithism and phanemery?
Um,
It starts with I think it starts with a P, and because it's part of the game that they were mentioning.
yeah, I got you. No, I don't have the term offhand either, but it's
Okay.
all right. Don't sweat it. We can move
Yeah.
on.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he does go in to mention about a game that the um that is popular in the Phanemery. Um and basically they tell lies about each other and themselves, and then hopefully which each lie they tell, some of them try to force it to become truth, so it makes it indifferent between truth and lies. That's like why I'm like kind of like getting kind of confused. um I said one. I forgot that again. I was telling David, asking David if he remembered, but I forgot what the term was called. um, and one of those was one of them was Phantom Ray. So not Phantom Ray. Yeah, because Phantom is like basically Islam and world Islam. Um, and it dominated over other faiths and the city to become new truth. So it's the condition, and it becomes the one that dominates all over others becomes the conditioned, and that name starts with a V. Again, it's somewhere in my notes, but it's gone. It's gone. Um, as for that, the reason why we kind of find out later on is that Moangus and Kellis were saying, okay, well, in order to battle the no god as a collective, the human race needs to be united into one focus head and one point, a unified front against the no god. And it can't do that with these two religions being like so prominent. So he says both of them have to be destroyed, and a new one has to take its place to be um, to lead to as a spearhead against the Golgotha, and the Kish and the I said Kisharam against the consult. Um, so that's why, as you notice, that like throughout this book, like he's saying, and also part of the Warrior Prophet is like, now whatever I say goes. Basically, all the things that Enri Janus says, it's like it's great and all, and I get it, but I'm the new prophet now. So what I say is new truth. So he's laying. That's why Kells was laying the groundwork to that, to be the new head of the religion. So it's going to be Enrithism version 2. Um, so again, don't remember the name of that. Um, so as they're going over this, like, um, um, Mois does thinks that the trials might have broken Kells because of he was talking about he hearing the voices and stuff. The prophecies about the plains of Ming and or Kells is like, well, but my truth. I mean, but what I said in the plan about the plains of Mingeda of what Salbon did to win the battle, it happened to the exact T. And he's like, well, that's just circumstance, dude. Like, you did your probabilities, you played them out, and they happened to what it happened. So you just pretty much gave them the blueprint to win the battle. And then Kels was like, oh, okay, maybe he might be right. Maybe I might be going mad. But he kind of still like kind of conflicted. Uh, that maybe he's like, okay, but there's some other things that could have that still aren't adding up quite before. So like the Dunyan training of what comes before must come after. It's still holding strong for Moangus Bakelis is like there he's like even throughout the whole most of the three trilogies, as he's been progressing towards this point, like he's starting to have like questions like, okay, uh maybe not, it might not always be the case because we all were all so sure about certain things, and the Ishwal and the Dunyan were all so sure about things. But then we learned about sorcery, and the second apocalypse was basically shunned and thought as just nonsense. But there's been some recounts that seems to be true, and I've shown experience. So maybe the Dunyan are not quite 100% right because we've been isolated. So maybe there could be what we've been taught is not always right. So maybe the what comes before might come after might not be 100% foolproof. It might be consistent for the most part, but it might not always be foolproof. So as he's like as he was talking about this like his doubt, he's also looking at his hands. And now the haloed hands thing I did want to mention to you. I still don't know if the haloed hands is just a figure of imagination or it's the belief and that Kells is something more. So it was mentioned, I think, in this book that Kells, not other people like Proyas and Esmenet see the haloed hands, but Akka sees it in spurts. He'll say, like, he's like, oh man, I'm so envious of Proyas being able to see his hands being haloed constantly. I can only see in sports, but I think the haloed hands is for people that are true believers and they're just like imagining things. But I don't know. I could be wrong because I don't think Akka can see them now. So that's just like some random thought I thought of.
Dependent on Kellis's seeds. Yeah,
Mm.
I don't know. You would know better than me.
But I mean, I guess he also believes in himself that he might be something more
Yeah, right.
than just a Dunyan or Dunyan and a person. He might be something more. Maybe he might be a prophet. So maybe he might be believing his own delusions in a way. He could be somewhat mad, like his father thinks. So um, so um, eventually he hears as they're talking about it. As they're talking during all this their discussion and monologuing, Moegus cuts abruptly, and he hears Nayor and the skin spies approach. Um, um, so Kellis realizes that Moegus asks instructions about the proposition. And I feel like I put this out of order. Yeah, I think I put this one out of order. But okay, you can cut that part. But when Kells and Naor Moegus realizes that Naor is coming, um, Kells is basically told Moegas that he must die because once he learns of the damnation comes to be, it will result in him doing everything to prevent him from going to damnation, which is exactly what the consul are doing and the and Corroy are doing. So he's like, basically, if you truly believed, like you eventually you would have believed. I feel like he's Kellis' confidence. Eventually, you would have believed that um what damnation would look like, and you or know what it looks like and what it actually is, and you would be like so terrified that you would do everything in your power to prevent this. So basically you would go right into the consul's hands and you would be joining hands to prevent that. So I was like, you must die because uh your hands are pretty much dirty as hell right now. Things you've done is atrocious.
I
um
do just have to throw in the fact that they've deduced like all this stuff about the Ankori and the No God just from like probabilistic logic. Like even even though they're basically supercomputers, it's
it's
kind of insane to
far-fetched.
me. So
It's a little
it is
far-fetched.
just a tad, but I'm here for it. But
Yeah.
I did
That's a
just want to call that out.
Yeah, I have a friend that that's the reason why I didn't really like this trilogy is because he said it's a little far fetched with the how he was able to get information, and I can understand that. I just kind of roll with it. And it's like okay, whatever. But yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like they've been able to reduce too much with not enough information to get to that point. Like, anyways, um, so as he as Kellis and Moise were talking, and Nair was approaching, Kellis stabs his father in the chest, and eventually, Kellis gets thrown into the pit, and he's already doing his chant, and Naor is here, and Naor Moangus tries to woo or Moangus tries to woo Naor over again to put down his weapon, take care of me, how to love bomb him, and I guess he didn't see it. He didn't have in his eyes like Naor kissed him. He loved the passion, but he put the courier right on him, and he died there. Um, and Kalis obviously did the deed, and Naor is left in the dark with the skin spy of Serwa. And that is the end of Moangus. There's probably some stuff left out in that. Especially, I could have sworn I wrote down that name. That's gonna bother me. Uh,
Well,
the
I'll be honest with you. This Nayor ending, I don't know if he's dead. Like I don't know if he's dead. What I do know is I predicted that he was going to fold. And listen, there was clearly a lot of emotion there that kicked in at the end that
mm-hmm,
we would have hoped didn't, and that I'm sure Nayor would have hoped didn't.
mm,
Um, but in the end, he did what he had to do.
yeah,
So
he got his
um,
revenge.
he got his revenge, but Moangus couldn't even let him make it a. He couldn't even accept defeat. He had to flirt with him at the. Dude,
Yeah,
pissed me off. I was glad to see this guy dead.
yeah. Poor I
We
mean,
got I got everything I needed out of him over the last
yeah,
two chapters. Yeah, no,
yeah. It's kind of sad because it's like you said, it's like Naor was not even mad, like even mad that in the end he's not mad that he got manipulated. He got mad that he got left behind.
yeah.
It's like you didn't even love me enough to keep me around.
No, of course not. Well, he
Yeah,
loves you not at all, buddy.
yeah. This is a tool.
That is why the Kishara Marts failed him.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he lacks the
Passion, passion,
the ability to tap into the metaphysics of the heart.
the heart, metaphysics
So,
of the heart too. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
So
All right.
while
Well, yeah, we got other business to take care of. Oh, this
yeah,
chapter's long. All right.
yeah,
Let's not slow it down anymore.
yeah. So
Yeah.
while the Cals and the Earth thing was going on, they're going back and forth. Cals and Moengus and the Earth aspect was going on. There was a battle. So there was three parts of the battle, I guess, or four or five major players in the battle. So there was Eliazarus fighting the Kisharim. We had Got the Elk and the Tidoni and a bunch of other people, Gotien and company, the Trial Knights and Lord Soter and Kingandrahoy. Um, um, yeah. And well, not Kingandrahoy, but um yeah, that part of the battle at the aqueduct. So, and then we had Proyas still invading the city and his situation there. And then we have Conphus, and then we have Akka fighting um, the giant dragon, basically. Well, I guess it was a dragon. It's the Kifrang that Sarcellus or Iacus summoned. It's a demon. Anyways, so the Gothic and company started the battling at the aqueducts. So at the river of Sempis, which is again the River Jordan, where equivalent of the River Jordan, where Jesus was baptized by John, and I'm guessing it's the same thing was in Resurgenus and like the equivalent of John in Rithism. Um, so that battle, I'm gonna really gloss over that because that battle was like it didn't really do much other than that it's the Enrithi were kind of I wouldn't say trapped. They were trying to hold the line at they formed like a shield line with spears to prevent the uh Phanom people and Fanile to break through. Um, he killed like there was death on all sides. So again, I'm just gonna be brief. So it's like some of the notes was that the Gothiel died, um, Gautian died, um, like one dude of the not Gothiel's son, one dude on the other side, like the major like big player on the Kinganja, who I Tiger of Imarna, yeah, he died fighting Lord Soder, and I think it was Gothiel's son that actually killed him. And there was just a lot of deaths there. It was just death came swirling down, as like he likes to repeat.
A
Um,
lot of that.
a lot of that, a lot of the death did come swirling down. I think the first time that was mentioned was in Warrior Prophet. It could have been actually, yeah, I think it was Warrior Prophet that was mentioned. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of death. Some rallies and some fallbacks from the Reethi. Fanile made his appearance, and I don't even remember specifically if Fanile actually died. I imagine he did when, but I'll actually mention it later. But there was a major player that came towards the end of that aqueduct battle, and we'll mention his name and his cavalry later. Um, so we're gonna go to like the Kisharm versus Ellie. Basically, Ellie and the Kisharm were going at it. Um, they were outnumbered. They obviously was it was I won't say a trap, um, but the numbers were dwindled on across Spires. Numbers were dwindled kind of a bit, and the Kisharm came out in full force, and they were surrounding them, and it was just like they're just getting overwhelmed, and they were dropping like flies on both sides, but mostly on the Scarlet Spires. And it was like the people that were like on the upper tier of the Kisharm. I forgot what tier they were. There was like they didn't have as much information. That's what Ellie mentioned. They didn't have as much information on like how they fight and how strong they are. They didn't have a good gauge, so they kind of just kind of fell back, um, and were on the back foot. And then a the what should we call it? Eventually, Ellie was cornered, but the Danuyeri came to bail them out. I don't know. I forgot the specific head of the Danuyeri, what his name was, but he's like a really giant dude. He ended up killing like one of the main leaders of the Kisharim, and he was battling those guys out. Um, Eventually, those guys died out, and it was just like Ellie versus like um like a five Kisharm schoolmen, and eventually he died. His wars broke, and he died. Um, and we see later on like Kellis storm the storm the back flew back over to uh flew back over to like the battle, and he fought the Kisharm. Those five he won and just wreck them. Um, but that was through Proyas's eyes. And that was pretty much the end of the battle between the Kisharm and Scarlet Spiders. The Scarlet Spiders are pretty much done. They're pretty much eliminated. I think Ayak is the last one alive.
Yeah,
Um,
he's around in the next chapter.
yeah, the bastard. And um, we had Proyas's POV. So Proyas was like, I mean, he was just walking around. He was just walking around most of the time. He was like kind of I mean, he had some skirmishes here and there, and he saw some action. But one of the moments that, like, the first moments we have in this chapter is him reaching a house with like a mark on the door. Now, I'm not sure like what the significance of this place was. Like, he seemed to like have this as like a holy place. I feel like, but I'm like, is this supposed to be where Sir Janus was born? I like. I don't know. You would know the house by the name, by the actual door and be impossible because I mean Richard James was long ago, so there's no way this like you would know the specific house. But um anyways, he does open the door and he sees like there's some two dead bodies in there, two grown men, and then he sees one mother and her little girl. And obviously the mother drew the sign of the tusk to kind of to say basically say like we're on your side now. We give in, we surrender. And yeah, it was a Proyas's like instincts here was he got caught up in the emotional rever of just like the situation of battle, and I
Dude,
guess in general.
was he thinking about
Yeah.
assaulting her right here?
Hmm.
That's kind of the vibe I got.
Yeah, he was. But
Um,
luckily his piousness, I guess, won out. Uh, but
I
I guess he
suppose.
mentioned that uh, that does happen to men, and when they're in war, they're they get around. Well, I guess just like the concept,
Yeah,
they get
yeah,
aroused.
the skin
Uh,
spies.
the skin spies, yeah, they guess they get aroused. And he was talking about the description of the girl when he picked the girl up and she was biting back, and that really stimulated him. And he was like, yeah, I don't know what's going wrong with me. It's going in very kind of disgusting descriptions. And I was like, Proyas, nurse A of all people, just Mr. Do everything right to the letter of the Lord, uh, going into depravities of the common man? I don't think so. But the clash of lightning and sorcery kind of woke him up, and he told the mother and the girl, you must hide in a better spot. So
Yeah,
we're still following Proyas, and she was watching the battle of Ali versus Kisharam and how he died. And then, like I mentioned earlier, he saw it was five Kisharam left, and all the Scottish spies were dead, and they were searching for bodies, mostly to see if there's even any survivors on both ends, to either kill or to rescue. And then that's when Kellis appears out of nowhere and starts battling them. And he was defending, and then eventually he basically speed blitzed them and then killed them all, one by one. And he did what he did. Um, um, I think that is it for the main battle. Or I did the main battle, and I did Proyas and Ellie's POV stuff. So we're gonna move on to Akka and Esme. So while the battles were going on, we have Akamian and Esmenet, um, as they were see when they saw the Kidra, and Akka basically warned her, said to go. He was supposed to go tell Nayor, or go to warn Proyas and the company about um, Confuce's like backstabbing situation and going to come and just destroy the Holy War with his men. And he's like, okay, I got to do something because Nayor told me to go protect Proyas. And basically, he's going to go protect Proyas regardless and prevent him from dying. So he starts his chant. Esme was kind of going description of like how she truly, and this like this is the first time she actually truly saw Akka go into battle and see what he truly was. And he starts his chants, and he's just obliterating everyone. All the Kidra Hill, and the entire army, Nansor army is just like um is not entirely obliterated, but everyone like he destroyed the entire command head. Like it was like Cascoman, no Cascoman. I guess it was Cascomandry was was trying to battle back, but he got blown up, as we kind of see through Conference's POV. Like Conference was I guess I was kind of talking Hawkins and Conference POV in this part. Like so when Conference came in, he was out acting cocky. He was like, "Man, exactly how I planned it. I knew this was gonna happen. I told everyone this is. I mean, I am Conference, the Lion of the Cayuth. Everyone should know that I was destined for greatness, and what I say was actually gonna happen." Um, and he was like sitting there, and he eventually did see Akka's kind of approach. And he's like, "What's going on?" And then he grabbed his core right instinctually, and then he just sees a bunch of people just getting obliterated. And he sees the Cascamandry trying to fight back. Eventually, the wards of Cascamandry was not strong enough, and he got obliterated from the Gnosis from Akka, which is kind of funny because Akka, in my opinion, I think I'm not sure it's true. Is I think he's probably like a mid-level sorcerer in the mandate. I can't even imagine like if Note Sarah was like stronger, like what his kind of level would be. So, um, because Aka's kind of relatively young compared to Note Sarah. I think Note Sarah is quite a bit older than him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not even sure, but um, I guess there's a chance they could still know the Gnosis to the same degree, but like, I mean, clearly Akka is more junior in terms of seniority, so
Yeah,
um, less than or equal to, I would
yeah,
imagine.
yeah. I imagine so too. Um, as Akka is destroying the lines and Conference got knocked out, and Conference's men like basically retreated, everyone's scattering. Chain of command is like obliterated and dead. They pull Conference out, and Conference is unconscious. And as Akka's like doing this, he's like, okay, eventually these Corey Bowmen are gonna come and kind of kill me. I'm gonna be outnumbered. I can't really defend this. Um, but they're like kind of disorganized and they're kind of stunned. And then Akka sees Asmonet charging towards him. Um, and cause I guess she's afraid of the Corey Bowman and stuff. And Akka sees the Kith ring come twirling out of the sky, ready to fight him. And he knocks over Asmonet, or it knocks over Asmonet. And Akka's like basically to Esme to run. Him and the Kifrang are battling it out, and uh, Akka eventually. I guess it was kind of in my chapter. I don't really know like what really happened. It just seemed like to me from Esmondet's POV that he got eaten, but and I guess he blew him up from the inside. But he mentioned something like in like later part of my chapter that he was like in the Kifrang's hand, and like he was like falling down from the sky.
Yeah, I think like he was short a ward that he put up or something. He was like belated with that. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember the exact. I don't
it
know
was
the
kind of
details
weird.
precisely, but
It seemed to me she's like because I remember Esmond saying like his jaws clamped on him, and I'm like, okay, so you got eaten. So I'm like, maybe he got bitten in the leg because he did say he had leg injury. So I don't know. Maybe he got bitten in the leg. Maybe the fall damage from his leg. I don't know. Turns out I guess he won the battle because I don't even remember the Kifring dying in the actual. Like, do you remember the Kifring actually dying?
to be honest with you, the only thing that has like stood in my mind from this fight is like Esme watching like from afar and like just like taking in the idea that like he is like this is what he was and all that. Um
I'm
you
gonna say
know,
the Kifrang
was
died, and they can and people in chat can correct me. Um, so I'm gonna say he killed the Kifrang and he fell out the sky. Um, and eventually we see in your chapter what became of Bakker. So I'll leave that to you. And then we go to Proyas's part after he got knocked out, and Naka's battling it out. So Proyas wakes up and he's like, "Oh, he thought he was dying and dead because he had all this blood on him, but it was really Cascamandry's blood." I'm sorry, I keep saying Cascamandry. Everyone, it's not Cascamandry. It's Kim and Ketri. See, two very similar names.
names are
Cascamandry
not
is someone
easy.
else. Cascamandry was someone else. I can't remember who he was, but Kim and Ketri was the Imperial Sake guy, head of Imperial Sake. As he was killed, as he kind of was woken up, he was trying to rally troops because he sees everyone's like scattered. People are withdrawing. People are running around like headless chickens, going all types of directions. And he tried to rally troops by yelling, "It was like, oh, your king lives! Like, follow me, rally behind me." Um, so when at one point the as he was rallying the troops, like there's some people that came to him and was like pledging allegiance to him, or it seemed to be pledging allegiance. It was like the end of the chapter, really. And towards the end of the chapter, and Confus looks up and he sees like a banner, and there's a bunch of people charging the hill down the hill. And he's like, he notices like he had like a memory from what his mother said, just to say always be like always be like surveying your surroundings or your situation, circumstance, because things can change. And he didn't think of the boy Salbon decided to make a late arrival. And I remember Conference mentions like this must be what the Phantom people thought of when they were getting attacked by the Enrithi, what they see. And basically they charged to the lines, killed almost everyone, and Sabon lopped Confuse's head off. And then we see Sabon. Well, we don't see fully, but Sabon charged his men through Confus and went to go help the people battling in the aqueducts and take down Fanile and company, and then and the Phantoms there. So, um, and that is pretty much it from my chapter. We ended on um, Akka's part, if I remember correctly. So that was a bunch of stuff that literally took an hour of just yapping, and it was like a 2 hour part of the book, an audiobook at least. So yeah, that is end
It
of
was
chapter
the
16.
climax of the trilogy. I just one quick little bit, and then we'll move on. That I did just want to shout out. Like I did love like to the end these parallels of Confus almost kind of like thinking he was Dunyain to an extent. I mean,
Yeah.
not really,
Mm-hmm.
but like there's a line. It was as if he could see the future to its very limit.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like yeah,
Um,
he's Dunyan without the actual ability to fully see.
right. So yeah, that was a blast. But yeah, yeah, I'll jump into 17 because we also when I had some thoughts at the end and in total, yeah, this is that'll probably be around a 2 hour episode. So, um, okay, I'll keep it kind of brief, even though there are some big things to hit on. So, Akka is basically kind of tripping out after this whole thing went down. So kind of in and out of dream state. We see Saswatha and uh, Nakayati. I always forget how to pronounce
And
his
now,
name.
now Cayutis.
Yeah, Kayuta. Okay, gotcha. And this is someone we've seen before, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's remember
yeah,
it was
the
in my chapter. Him and Seswatha were infiltrating
yeah,
Golgotha,
right.
and
Golgotha.
he
Yeah, okay.
is Calmomus is his nephew. Actually, no,
Yeah,
son. He's Nick Calmomus' the son. So you know how the prophecy of the Anasarimber king, that's Calmomus, and his son was now Cayutis, which is he's not a descendant of Kellis. He's like now Cayutis had a brother, and Kellis is a descendant of that brother, not now Cayutis.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. I remember that.
Well, so yeah, I know. I knew he was like in an Aster Embor, and the reason I clocked that is because like they're having a disagreement about like how Saswatha was like dishonest about his lover right now, and like so there's almost I don't know maybe kind of some parallels going on.
Hmm.
I thought between um, you know, Akka and yeah, etc.
Okay.
But it was deception, to defeat the no god. Now obviously it's on the sorcerer's side this time, but I don't know. Who knows? Just worth shouting out, I thought. But then yeah, just some dreams about the apocalypse. The no god hitting him with the what do you see, and actually I think begins to refer to him as a commune, so we know he's speaking directly to him.
Yeah.
I guess
Very
I was
much
just
so.
hypersensitive to clock in that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, he's just kind of right now he's hanging out in like a fisherman's hut where like he's being tended to by a woman who he like assaults just because he's like losing his mind, or not like assaults and on the more sensitive senses of the word, but either way, he does hurt her. And he's like, all right, I got to get out of here. So he just rolls out naked. And I was picturing, I guess he's naked for the rest of the chapter. Um, so yeah, he kind of cleans up, but then he's kind of seeing the state of things. So like there are some people that want his blessing. They're saying truth shines, and he spits on him. He is not having it with any of this holy war BS anymore. He just sees everything in smoking ruins. The Kisharam temple, slipping on the exact name of it, but. Anyway, it is the beginning of a new age. It is year one, and Kellis is speaking. So this is the holy court of the Aspect Emperor, Kellis. And everyone is in attendance. Well, actually, I guess we get some notes of who's not in attendance, being
Mm,
Zin,
mm.
um,
Conphus.
Nayor, Serway, etc. But we got Sarah, Proyas, Savan, Ayakis is there in place of um,
Ali Yazarus.
Eliazarus. Yeah, right. Um, and Esme, of course.
Oh,
So
you're missing
Akka.
one person that's very important as he
Oh
was walking
well,
out.
Mathanet,
Yeah.
of course.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, he's the one who he announces this to be the Holy Court of the Aspect Emperor.
Yep.
But yeah, Akka has announced that he's returning for his wife. He is coming in determined. Um, and I think Natsara is the first to kind of speak out against him. Um, but we were kind of alluding to this earlier, but Esme, we're not sure how we got from point A to point B, but she has made her choice. She is clearly, feeling a little sorrowful about it. But yeah, Akka. I mean, this is just
I know you're mad about this.
the culminate. It's just the culmination of all the mixed feelings I have about Akka because, um, again, like I said, basically to start the episode here, like I do consider it like truly just like a victory, and like much like I'm proud of Akka for going on here to renounce his school, renouncing his prophet, and the way in which he renounces his wife. I just that's the thing. He just cannot let go the fact that
Get to
you
rub
know
rub salt in the wound.
yes, he exposes her tattoo for that's and I guess it wasn't really clear. I guess this was kind of in view, but I mean he's at least
He
reminding her
exposed it
himself.
not only that to her and her face. So it's more a personal thing. So he
Yeah, right.
when he grabbed her, he shoved it in her face to basically say, "This is what you are, a whore after all."
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so that is what it is. But Kellis, he lets him walk off, but he says to him. So I've actually got this written down. The next time you come before me, the Aspect Emperor said, his voice cavernous, ringing with inhuman resonance, you will kneel, dear Sisakamion. Um, but Akka does not turn back, and the wizard limps on. Being a wizard, no longer a
Yep.
sorcerer
No
because
longer
he
wizard.
has
Mm-hmm.
renounced his school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then yeah, and scene. So I mean, there were some additional things I wanted to say just now that we've kind of closed up here. Unless, but if you wanted to add on about this closing sequence here, go
Um,
ahead. But much shorter than the previous.
yeah, I mean, I just love that how Aka just ignores um not Sarah basically, but also how he Kellis like realized saw him for seeing him like, oh yeah, he's totally disillusioned of me now. Um, I think that was interesting. He tried to send an olive branch, and Aka was like, no, I'm not getting played by you anymore. Uh,
Well, the thing, I mean, maybe, but I mean, the thing is, it's just never clear how many steps ahead Kellis is thinking and has been thinking. Um, so, I mean, it could be as it. All right, listen. If we're gonna accept that Kellis and his dad can deduce the entire like second apocalypse and no God and Corey and all this stuff, something tells me he is okay with what's happening with Akka right now. But I guess the only way to find out is the next series.
yeah,
So,
the only way to find out the next series,
but
I
yeah,
know, but
I know you do. We'll see what Akka is gonna be up to. I'm not gonna spoil it here, but I did read the back of the book for the Judging Eye, and
mm,
let's just say it's basically the exact sort of starting points that I want out of my wildest dreams, and I'm looking forward to very very much. So.
hmm
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll give a little review of the book. Or not like necessarily a review, but like closing thoughts. Um, listen, so on the trilogy as a whole, okay,
hmm
I am not necessarily on board with like every philosophical stance Baker presents. Um, I guess not necessarily to say I'm not on board with them, but I don't know. Some of them were like first of all, like presented in ways I'm not going to claim to have fully grasped, especially
hmm
after just one read of this. And I don't know. I mean, there were just some kind of convolutions or like kind of lumping in different ideas that I don't necessarily want to say that I endorse. Like if like that's what he's going, but like regardless, like the fact that it's generally internally consistent and um like I could nitpick, but like at the end of the day, like it made me think, it made me reconsider things. I'm gonna need a reread for sure to like kind of get a better idea of
hmm
what he's going for and you know digest things a little better. But it like really like just being able to like chat about these things again, like in a fictional setting, like it's just really cool to see someone playing with these kind of ideas in any capacity. So it was a treat. Um, and yeah, I mean, like on top of like some of the higher level philosophical concepts, just like getting more micro with like observing like how we're wired and watching Kellis just work on people, it's my favorite part of the Warrior Prophet for sure. Um, and then like I don't know his individual methods with people, then like just thinking about how like everything he's doing is just optimizing for the long run, like I don't know. It's hard to say now if like he was like optimal in practice or like I don't know. It's all a lot of it's kind of up to interpretation, but either way, fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this stands my favorite of the three. I think Aka breaking through like really just kind of put the climax over the edge for me. Um, so uh, yeah, I don't know, dude. Like I had a blast with this. I'm really glad. So we went through these and we have four more to go. So
hmm
yeah, I don't know. Has your opinion swayed at all? I know you had mentioned that darkness might come in last, but we
yeah.
had started to record a couple days ago. Have you
I still agree.
rebake?
I still put this as second best. I originally had
Okay.
this as the worst. It did. I didn't. Actually, I would say this is like second, but a very close second to Darkness. I think Warrior Prophet is still above this one, clear for me, but um I still think like Darkness that comes before and Warrior Prophet or and Thousandfold Thought are pretty close. When you mentioned about the about the Dunyan um, being ability to be able to like interpret everything, even stuff that they shouldn't even have like any information on, and they come to some conclusion that ends up being right. I can understand why that's kind of grating, and I get that, and that kind of is kind of way off. So that's why I don't really put it as like up there with Warrior Prophet for me. Not only that, it's like, I mean, I preferred the stuff that didn't have to do too much with Akka and Esme's relationship because I feel like that was like a major, it's like all that we heard about with Akka, like for most of the book. And I'm just like, okay, I get it to a certain degree. I mean, I would let that shit happen to me. I didn't let that slide. But um, I get where he's coming from. But like, all right, it's kind of getting overplayed out for me. Like, I want him to focus on other things as well, not just man, this girl left me. Like, the soap opera was kind of. I was kind
It
of,
was a little circular, I guess.
yeah,
I don't know, repetitive to a
repetitive,
degree.
exactly. So I'm like, okay, this is. I mean, it has its moments, but I'm like, all right, I kind of want him to focus on teaching Kels the gnosis. I know it's hard to get past that with him with Kels being now the baby daddy. Um, but it's like I want him just to focus on other things other than just Esmond, and I'm like his relationship with Esmond. That's like that's what I wanted to get through. As for other as the rest of the book, like I remember when I first listened to this book, I didn't remember. I didn't hold or retain that much information. I kind of just went through this without really paying attention too much. This is probably the book that I paid the least attention to when I was doing audiobook. But going through a reread now, actually putting eyes to page, it actually I noticed a lot more things, and a lot of things starting to make a lot more sense. I think this whole reread as a whole, I understand a lot more of the story. Now I'm looking forward to one specific part in the Great Ordeal and see that was another moment. That was a big part of the book, and I was like, I wasn't paying too much attention. So maybe on a second read of the next series, I will be since I'm actually putting my eyes to the page, I will be able to fully understand the situation and maybe appreciate it more. So I appreciate actually reading this book, and I appreciate you taking your time out to read it, do a buddy read with me. I know it's long, but I think
Oh,
it'll be worth
dude,
it.
I had a blast. I had a blast. And I mean, we'll have well, first of all, here, you can finish up if you got to add any more thoughts, and then I
No,
guess we can talk about sort of next steps.
yeah, that's it. I mean, I think if you guys made it this far and not just skip to this episode, because I know some people really randomly do that. Uh, I appreciate you guys sticking around. I mean, I doubt anyone, not many people are here. I know David said, messaged me, said a few people watched the first episode and commented. That's great. Um, yeah, if you made it this far, appreciate it for sticking around and watching. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of doing this pod, it has been a blast. It like first of all, just the whole reason I was down for this to begin with is I wanted a companion to read through these, and I mean, clearly you could see in certain respects of still been lost, but enjoying the ride, just holding myself up afloat enough. With the homie jigs here. So we've had good times, and we do plan to do some stuff coming up. We are going to take a little bit of a breather, and then maybe shift the format a bit. I think this trilogy was worthy of us going super in depth and like being able to provide recaps and like episodes that only covered a few chapters. But it is kind of quite the commitment. So we are thinking of shifting to um, broader discussions that'll either cover larger sections of books or maybe just books as a whole. So stay tuned. We'll definitely be coming back to this world for the Aspect Emperor. Um, so that'll be a continuation. I'm really looking forward to. But I think it's probably a good time to get a little of the opening Dune trilogy in between because. Dune Part 3 of the movie's coming out. Jakes has never read those. I have read the first one, and I was just like foaming at the mouth to like talk about all the Dune influences that I caught walking through this. So
Fire
maybe
time.
we'll even have an additional chat where we'll talk spoilers for both Prince of Nothing and Dune once we finish those up. So that could be fun. But yeah, listen. Usually, we thank you guys for watching and sticking around. And I'm not really the type to be hitting the audience with a request to like and subscribe and all that. But since we're at the end here, I will say, um, hopefully, if you made it this far, that implies that you have enjoyed it to an extent, and a good bit of work did go into this. It was clearly fairly casual, but at the same time, likes and subs would be appreciated if you think this was a useful companion in any respect. Give us a share, or anything like that, or um, if somehow you've gotten any sort of insight or at least entertainment out of us dunces stumbling through this, then let us know what else you'd like us to traverse down the line. So, um, yeah, man. Yeah, I think that's it. We have crowned our new aspect emperor, and the Prince of Nothing is a Prince of Nothing no more.
Sure, hell is not Prince of Nothing anymore. Prince of everything, pretty much.
Exactly. Exactly right. If there is anything beyond nothing, an idea that I'm sure will be further explored going on. Yeah, I'm jazzed. I'm excited for what's to come. But for now, I think that's it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So, um, hope you all enjoy the trilogy just as much. And hope you have a great rest of your day.
Bye.